Ad hoc committee meeting to order. This is the purpose of the Community Action Committee, 6:15 p.m. Tuesday, February 19, 2013, the caucus room, 3rd floor, City Hall, 155 Deer Hill Avenue. My name is Joe Cabell. I'm the chairman of the committee. Along with myself on this committee, we have Mr. Greg Seabury, Mr. Jack Knapp, Mr. Tom Sadi, and Mr. Fred Visconti. We have our corporation counsel, Dan Casagrande. Representative from the mayor's office is unable to be here tonight. And, oh, there he is, Mr. Wayne Shepard. I'm sorry, Wayne, thank you. And we have our director of finance, David St. Hilaire, with us. This is a continued meeting from the 11th of February, was it the 11th? No, I'm sorry, the 8th of January. And we are, this is a committee meeting for this committee only. I will not be accepting or entertaining comment from the public. And no, we appreciate you being here. We're in the very early stages of this process, and I'd like to keep this just tight and neat and just keep it between the committee members at this time. At some point in time, there will be council action. There will be an avenue for public comment at the beginning of the council meeting with anything on the agenda from this committee, and you'll be able to voice your concerns and questions to the council as a whole. So at this time, I'd like to go to Mr. Casagrande to update the committee on some correspondence from CACD and where we stand. Mr. Casagrande, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to bring everybody back up to speed, at the last committee meeting, the committee authorized Mr. Sadi and Mr. Cavo, on behalf of the committee, to write a letter to CACD containing the requests of the committee that it deemed necessary to help turn around the CAD ship, if you will. That letter went out on January 9th, and on February 1st, we received a response directed to myself and Ms. Natali by Attorney Goldman on behalf of CACD. What I understand that all members of the committee have copies of that letter, so I'm not going to read it, but my thought was I would simply go through the specific actions that the committee letter requested CACD to take and to confirm that they were taking, and CACD's response to those specific actions as contained in Attorney Goldman's letter. The first, and again, all of this is done against the backdrop of the BBT report that was done for the state by Brown, Buckley, and Tucker. And you recall that our letter referred and adopted many, if not all, the recommendations contained in the BBT report to the commissioner. The first action request of the committee was to endorse the findings and recommendations of the BBT report. The response from CACD is that they are endorsing most of those recommendations. The second request was that CACD commit to the recomposition of the board as recommended by the BBT report no later than March 15th. You'll recall that a salient component of the BBT report was the statement that there is a critical need for the agency to reinvent itself both internally and externally. And one of the main priority steps that report adopted, in which this committee also endorsed, was reconstitution of the board of directors, save for a few members to preserve continuity. The CACD response to that request is no. They are not going to reconstitute the board. They do not believe that wholesale board replacements are necessary, and the intent, as I understand it, and the committee will be guided by its own review of the letter, as I understand it, the intent is for them simply to fill vacancies as they occur. So that response was no, we are not going to reconstitute the board. The third request is a commitment to work cooperatively with Mayor Boughton in vetting and hiring the new executive director and finance director to ensure that persons of high competence, integrity, and knowledge of the community are chosen for these positions. The response is basically this. CACD is in the process of hiring or conducting recruitment for a new executive director. There was no commitment stated in Attorney Goldman's letter to replace the executive director. Recall there's an interim executive director that is there now, and Attorney Goldman does point out that the executive director has stepped in and has had some effect in trying to help the staff there. However, the whole thrust of the BBT report, as I read it, and which I believe the committee reads it, is there needs to be a replacement of existing individuals, simply because of the public perception that the agency is in need of a new identity. There also was no commitment to work cooperatively with the mayor. All the report said is that the mayor has the opportunity to have input to the board selection process because of his access to board members. I would contrast that with page 10 of the BBT report, which was adamant that a new leader must be clearly identified and sanctioned by the community. In other words, that the BBT report envisioned, and I believe this committee envisions, a cooperative process in which the mayor, as well as the executive officer, chief executive officers of the other municipalities served by CACD, would have a robust say in the process. That is not the message that I got back from Attorney Goldman's letter. Other people may have a different response. The fourth action request by the committee was that CACD commit to work cooperatively with the chief executive officers of the municipalities served by CACD in choosing the public officials to sit on the new board. And recall, they don't even want to have a new board. They just want to replace the existing vacancy. So that in itself is non-responsive to that request. The response, the specific response to request number 4 is, yes, we will do that. We will work cooperatively because all CEOs of the region have input through their access to board memberships. I'm not entirely sure I know what that means, but I think it just means that people can call board members on the phone and try to influence their vote on new candidates for membership. I don't believe that. I think this committee can reasonably conclude that that is not the process that you envision. The fifth request is for a timetable for CACD to implement the recommendations in the BBT report, including getting the new board in place. There is no specific response to that. That's basically the 5 action requests and the responses as best I understand them, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Casagrande. Does anybody have any questions for Corporation Counsel's office? Mr. Sani?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman, to Corporation Counsel. In looking through the recommendations of the BBT reports, pages 10, 11, and 12, as well as the letter by this committee to CACD, is it your opinion that after your presentation, sort of in a nutshell, the majority of the recommendations, the majority of the questions in the committee letter, as well as the mayor's letter, haven't been complied with, and in some cases, there are statements that, that's not something that we will undertake to do.
I believe that's a fair statement.
And with regard, my understanding also is that there was a separate letter dated January 17th, sent directly by Ms. Kinlow to the mayor and copied to other city, either corporation council and some other city officials. I don't know that's a part of the record, but, Mr. Chairman, if it's not, I'll.
Item number 3. I believe.
Okay, so that has been included in the record in the notice going out for this meeting. Well, again, this letter does seem to state some level of wanting to work through and cooperate with the city. It doesn't set forth any specifics or substantively respond to anything in the council's letter or the BBT report in detail. I think that's a fair representation of that January 17th letter. The one thing, and I'll reserve further comments for later on in this meeting, is the idea, Mr. Chairman, that council to the committee presented, and is sort of taking some notes here, trying to think how to encapsulate sort of the BBT report, which was meant not just to be critical, but to provide constructive criticism for the reinvention of a needed agency for our community and the greater Danbury area. Absolutely, a CAP agency is needed. It does, CAP agencies do very good things for our community. We want to support that. That's the whole intent of, I believe, this committee and the city. But the concept hitting me of renew, reinvent, and reconstitute, which seems to be part of the BBT report. It doesn't mean get rid of everything, but you can renew, reinvent, and reconstitute by taking very strong, aggressive measures, which at least to now, either haven't been done or will not be communicated to us in writing. And we all know if something's being done and it's not sent to us in writing or not presented to us through our attorney, we don't know that's necessarily happening. So if something's being done behind the scenes that we don't know and there's an improvement there, I wish we'd seen it in the letter. I just didn't see that with many of the recommendations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, if I could too, item number 3 was actually, for our purposes of the committee, was the letter from the committee to CACD. So we'll mark the letter from CACD to the mayor as item number 4. And do we want to have a letter from Attorney Goldman be introduced as letter number 5?
I move that we introduce it as letter number 5 or exhibit number 5, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Sadi.
Without objection.
Okay.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Visconti?
Through the board to Councilman Sadi. The letter that you're speaking of, the January 17th, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that, and that's from Attorney Golden?
No, just to clarify the record, there actually are, my apologies, there were 2 January 17 letters. One is from, and through you, Mr. Chairman, one is from the acting director, Phyllis Kinlow, directly to the mayor, addressing, in summary form, I just like to say, addressing his previous correspondence. And then there is a second letter, January 17, 2013, from Attorney Goldman to the committee through our council and the legislative aid. I believe it's basically for an extension of time to respond to the committee's letter.
Thank you.
Okay. You all set, Mr. Visconti?
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Councilor Randy, any points of direction?
I guess the appropriate issue now is for the committee to decide what action, if any, it wishes to take, having received the response from Mr. Goldman.
Mr. Hack?
Dan, I said this at the last meeting, I'll say it again today. It really seems to me like the only chip we have in the game is the $18,000 that we give them. So it's very simple for us to say, okay, we're not going to give them the $18,000, but the problem goes way beyond the $18,000. The problem is holding the CAP agency in Danbury. Well, what do we have to do? How do we have to move forward? I think that's what we need to come to the grips with here, is how we're going to move forward to hold on to a CAP agency in Danbury. I mean, what I've heard from other sources is the fact that there's an opportunity, or not an opportunity, but worst case scenario is this cap agency gets closed, Waterbury becomes the super cap, if you will, and we really don't want to see that happen. So what is our legal way to move forward to prevent this from happening? I mean, just to send letters back and forth and tell them, well, you're not doing the job, and when we agree, oh, they are doing the job, we can do that all day long. In the meantime, the cap agency's heading down the road. So,
Well, I guess I can answer that in a couple ways, Jack. First, the committee should know that the mayor has been engaged in communications with the Commissioner of Social Services. As you know, from the statutory framework, it is the commissioner who basically has the say-so in terms of how to terminate, when to terminate, whether to terminate an agency. And we are trying to work with his office cooperatively so that we at least inform him as we go along of what our efforts are, and try basically to get him to be in the loop in terms of what the investigation is. At this point, the investigation is still in its nascent stages. And you're right that legally, the only power that the council really has is the power of the purse, the $18,000. However, I envision that working with the commissioner, and if the committee authorizes me, as it's going to be on the agenda for a few minutes from now, to continue the investigation, this committee has the power to investigate. And that means doing things like filing document requests with CACD, filing FOI requests with third parties like federal agencies that provide grant monies to this agency, and the state agencies that have provided grant monies, to get information from them, which I have, I've already started to compile some of the background information, but information that will enable me to put together a fair and objective, hopefully, a report to this committee about whether it will eventually find itself recommending, not only to the council, but to the commissioner, that the commissioner take the steps authorized in the statute. I'm not saying that's what you should do. I'm saying that is an avenue available. What we need, though, is we need factual ammunition at this point. Because right now, we're just asking for things to be done. We've seen the response. The committee, I think, has determined, or will determine, that the response is inadequate. The next step, if you deem it necessary, is to have the chairs, myself, and the mayor's office continue to work with the commissioner, keep him in the loop, and to develop a complete factual record that will enable you to make intelligent, fair decisions about where this agency should or shouldn't go. I don't know if that helps.
summary.
Mr. Seabury?
Thank you, Joe. Through you to Dave St. Well, do you have any idea what their annual budget is? Do you know? I know that we give them 18,000.
Yes.
What are the other towns? And if they donate?
I don't have those numbers.
Just wondering what kind of leverage is the $18,000 in the whole picture? Okay.
So what I'm gathering then is, we need several motions tonight. One would be to suspend the allocation of the funding if the committee so chooses to do that. And then the second motion would be to authorize you to start your FOIA request and document search and anything else related to the investigation at this point.
With directions to me that I obviously report back to the committee on a regular basis to report on my findings, so
And then-
without compromising the
And
integrity
then,
of the investigation.
and then what will happen is this committee will not close, it'll continue, but we'll do an update to the council, because we need the council's full approval to suspend the funding. To make a recommendation to the mayor and the council that we suspend the funding. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Knapp?
If I could, Joe, through you to David, the $18,000, we appropriated that in this year's budget. Is this like a quarterly payment? Are we talking about suspending $4,500 for the rest of this year? Is this, where are we at? Have we been paying them the $18,000? Where?
Actually, we appropriated to United Way in an amount of $396,000. And through the application process, they were granted $18,000. and they were given one quarterly payment of that 18,000, amount of $4,500 roughly.
So we're talking about a $13,500 hit to their bottom line, if you will.
I should, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, I should note that this $18,000 that was funded by the council for this current fiscal year, that it's $18,000 for this current fiscal year, down from $35,960 in the last fiscal year, down from $42,641 in the 2010-2011 fiscal year, and $86,000 in the 2009-2010 fiscal year. So this is a rather precipitous drop in funding, which I think the committee can conclude itself speaks volumes about the confidence of the community in this agency.
Mr. Simon?
Note something for the record, as my fellow committee member here. I don't know the exact number, but the amount of grants, revenue brought in, and then delivered through various services, either directly or indirectly through contract, my understanding is in the millions that CACD handles in one of its fiscal years. That being said, whether it's $13,000 or $18,000, whatever amount it may be, if it's something that we choose as a committee to go forward with, I think it's more of a matter of, I think we will probably all agree, a matter of principle.
Right.
That even though it's a small amount, if it's something we're concerned about, and the suspension is not a termination, it would simply, as I understand it, be able to hold the money in a quasi-escrow fund, and at the conclusion of investigation, if things are found to be either worked out or not what we perceive them to be, to raise concerns, these are allegations and concerns, then those monies could be, released and appropriated. That's what escrow funds are for. And that goes to the second issue of the continuation or authorizing, as part of the meeting here tonight, our attorney for the committee, for the city here to proceed with an investigation based on information he's already gathered, as well as the need to gather additional documents and information. So the two, I think, go hand in hand.
Joe, can I just have a?
Yeah, sure.
To Dan, if I might, could you tell me how many other communities contribute to this?
To this agency, I think it's a 17 or 18 community agency. So it's I think it's roughly the same as the Housatonic Valley region. The amounts that they contribute, though, I don't know.
Okay, so follow-up if I might, Jim. Are there any of these other communities looking at this the way we are? Are they disenchanted, shall we say?
The answer is I don't know.
Okay.
I just don't know if any community has done taken it to the level that we
Right, I
have.
understand. Thanks.
I certainly, as part of my investigation, should you authorize me to do it, will be in touch with the CEOs of those other communities just to develop a complete factual record.
I would bet, Mr. Seabury, the lion's share is here in Danbury.
Yes, that's
The
what
lion's share.
One more question. Yeah. This information that we're looking to gather, it's all, because this is through DSS, this is all FOI compliant anyways, right?
DSS
So
is a
there's-
public agency, and unless it's subject to an exemption, it's all FOI.
so
Now, again, that doesn't,
If there's a refusal there to give us the information that we're asking, you're going up against an FOI, you're not going up against the city of Danbury at that point. You're
you're talking
gonna
about
be penalized or whatever for not.
you mean pursuant to a request to the DSS or a federal agency
No,
itself?
we're gonna request information from them, that's what I assume is the direction you're
Right,
gonna go.
right.
We're not gonna get it. So now,
I hope
they're
that
not
we get it.
compliant.
I hope for the record that we get it.
Hypothetically.
Yeah,
That we don't get it.
right.
It's all FOIable, so they've
Mhm.
gotta give it to us.
It's FOIable to the extent that we can get it from the federal and state agencies. I do not know, and I'm not gonna give you a legal opinion tonight, there is some question about whether this CACD, this CAP agency, is subject to FOI. There are decisions throughout the country, and I've researched this, where some CAP agencies are deemed to be FOIable because essentially they're created by the municipal governments that they serve. Others, however, like CACD, are private, and this is a 501c3 nonprofit. So it's debatable at this point whether they are FOIable. I would hope, in the spirit of the cooperation in the investigation, that our document requests would be complied with. But if they're not, we have other avenues.
All right, what's your pleasure, council? We have possibility of two motions on the floor. Anyone interested in
I'll make,
fielding?
you want to field the one on dollars first?
Sure, that would be great.
Fancy one here. I wasn't thinking about, do you have something yet? I mean, I'll make the motion that the city of Danbury suspend until further notice the $18,000 that is currently, I guess it's through the United, is currently funded through the United Way to the CACD.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Mr. Seabury. Mr. Casagrandy, was that cover?
Is the intent of the motion that it be a recommendation to the full council?
Mr. Visconti?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through, I guess I can answer to Attorney Casagrande. If we were to pass this motion and the $18,000 was suspended, where does United Way come into this deal? I mean, they're handling the money. Do they have a choice in the matter what?
I would defer to Mr. St. Hilaire for that answer.
We would basically ask them to put it on hold or put it into an escrow, so when this matter is resolved, and then we could give them further instructions.
So there would be no, there should be no response from them in a negative, that they don't want to suspend the money. They definitely have to suspend the money.
I think they take their cue from us, or they
That's
take their
right.
directions from
It's
the
our-
city.
it's-
Right.
It's our agreement with United Way for the funding of the grant agencies here in Danbury.
Thank you.
And we are the directors of that, or of that funding, so. All right, so we have, Mr. Knapp made the motion to suspend future allocations, current and future allocations, and Mr. Seabury seconded it. Anything else under discussion? Mr. Sadi?
For purposes of legislative intent, that the suspension can be and will be periodically reviewed depending on the course of the investigation.
Absolutely not. Like you said earlier, was the whole intent of the suspension was not to remove the money, just to stop its distribution at the current time until we can complete some more of our work. So, all right, so we have a motion to suspend allocations. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Sadi?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the committee recommend to the council the full authorization for Attorney Casagrande to proceed with his investigation. It should be include but not limited to serving document requests, serving Freedom of Information Act requests, and other such discovery as necessary to conduct his due diligence.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded by Mr. Visconti. Under discussion? Mr. Sadi?
For purposes of legislative intent, that Mr. Casagrande be further, the intent is that he would be able to report interim to the committee through the committee chairperson, and not have to necessarily wait for a subsequent committee meeting to make his reports.
Thank you, Mr. Sadi. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Anything else under discussion for that? Seeing none, I'll try your minds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, so Mr. Casagrande, we'll get these minutes to the council, and at this, when we're ready to break, I'll entertain a motion to continue this committee when we're ready to go there. Do you have anything else you wanted to?
No, sir.
I just have one item I'd just like to add to the record. There was a newspaper article that was just in the paper a few days ago regarding allegations at the Community Action Daycare. I believe it's pertinent to this investigatory committee, and I'd just like to enter that in. It's not for the purposes, I'm not entering it for discussion, I'm just entering it in because I'd like it in the record. So I'm going to put it in with the clerk right now so that it's in and on public record.
Will that be an identified exhibit? It'll be number 6?
That'll be, we'll call that number 6, that's fine. I do. Number 6. There'll be copies on file in the clerk's office. I have copies. We get them on, they'll be on file there. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Sadi?
Your Honor. Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn subject to the call of the chair for continuation of this meeting, as well as in file an interim report with the council as a whole.
All right. Motion's been made to continue and seconded by Mr. Seabury. All those in favor of continuing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, ayes have it unanimously. At this time, seeing no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Visconti, thank you, seconded by Mr. Knapp. All in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Ms. Reedy, Mr. St. Hilaire, thank you very much.
Good morning. Chief Harold, Danbury Fire Department here. I'd like to talk to you a little bit today about disposal of ashes, either from your fireplace, your fire pit, or your charcoal grill. Unfortunately, many times during the year, improper disposal of these ashes has resulted in fires, both in Danbury and other areas. So we would like to remind you of a few key points. Never ever put ashes in any kind of a combustible, or in the case of plastic, a meltable container. Although the ashes may feel cool, ashes often harbor a few hot spots, and these can indeed burst into flame when unwatched or put away in a place unsafe. For example, on several occasions in the city of Danbury, we've had ashes put into cardboard boxes, paper containers, or plastic barrels. These have been placed outside, seemingly safe. However, the heat builds up, fire reignites, and often on a wooden deck or against the siding of a home can result in a fire. So please, use a proper disposal container. This means metal implements to move the ashes, a metal implement to carry them, such as a bucket or a covered container, and remove them entirely from the home or the garage. Put them outside, not against the building, far away from anything else that's combustible. By doing this, you will ensure yourself, your family's safety, and the safety of the neighborhood. Thank you very much for listening.